My name is Valerie Boles. I'm 34 years old, a financial advisor in Charlotte, North Carolina. And 3 hours ago, I watched my entire financial life drain away in real time while I reviewed client portfolios. One alert after another lit up my phone like a slot machine paying out in reverse. The soft glow from my dual monitors reflected off my untouched dinner plate, the pasta already cold and congealed. At first, I thought the bank system was having a meltdown. Then I opened the app and saw the carnage. Checking account zeroed out, savings gutted, my Roth IRA liquidated with early withdrawal penalties I didn't authorize. Every transaction traced back to devices I recognized. My father's tablet, my brother's laptop, the same father who taught me what compound interest meant when I was 12. The same brother whose car loan I co-signed 18 months ago because family helps family, Val. They hadn't borrowed. They had executed a plan. I stared at the transaction log, my pulse hammering so loud I could feel it in my temples. My emergency fund, the one I lectured clients about maintaining, gone. The down payment I'd saved for 3 years vanished. Every early morning client call, every weekend seminar, every no I'd told myself when I wanted something frivolous. All of it converted into a $43,000 wire transfer to some LLC I'd never heard of, authorized by credentials I had handed them myself during what Dad called a tax emergency back in 2023. I didn't scream. I went cold. My brain shifted into the same mode I use when analyzing a client's risk exposure, except this time the compromised account was mine, and the threat actors had my last name. Was I the fool for believing that blood relations operated outside the rules I applied to everyone else's money? Before I show you how deep this betrayal went, hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to uncover gets darker than I ever imagined. You won't want to miss how this ends. I forced my hands to stop shaking and opened the transaction history in full. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every authorization, I needed to see the architecture of the betrayal. My professional training kicked in like muscle memory. Document first. React later. The checking account showed the first hit at 11:47 p.m. on Sunday. Dad's tablet. I recognized the device ID because I'd helped him set up two-factor authentication last Thanksgiving, explaining patiently how it would protect him from scammers. The irony tasted like metal in my mouth. He'd transferred $8,200 to an external account I didn't recognize. 16 minutes later, another $12,000. Then at 12:03 a.m., Daryl's laptop, the one I'd watched him use at my kitchen table a dozen times, initiated a $31,000 withdrawal from my savings using his authorized user credentials. This wasn't panic. This wasn't desperation. This was choreography. I opened my laptop and started screen recording, narrating quietly like I was documenting a case study for a client. Transaction 1, November 19th, 11:47 p.m., device ID ending in 7392, Edgar Boles registered tablet. Amount, $8,200. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I clicked through to my investment accounts. My Roth IRA, the retirement fund that's supposed to be untouchable without massive penalties, had been liquidated at 1:47 a.m. Early withdrawal. 10% penalty. Another 20% in taxes I'd owe next April. Dad's device again. They'd known exactly what they were doing. Known which accounts had immediate liquidity. Known which ones required authorization codes I'd saved in my password manager. The one I'd shared with Dad last year when he said he needed help accessing his own banking after his stroke scare that turned out to be acid reflux. I pulled up the linked devices list across all 3 banks. Dad's tablet, active. Daryl's laptop, active. Daryl's phone, active since I'd added him as an authorized user in March 2023 when he was getting back on his feet after losing his apartment. I'd been so proud of myself for helping. So convinced that giving family a safety net was different than the risky co-signing arrangements I warned my clients against. The final transaction was the one that made my vision narrow. A $43,000 wire transfer to Apex Holdings LLC at 2:14 a.m. Monday morning. Dad's device. I searched the company name. Nothing. No website. No business registration I could find in 30 seconds of searching.
A shell.
They'd funnel my money into a ghost. I took a screenshot of everything. The transaction log. The device list. The wire transfer confirmation with its routing number and account details. Then I opened my email and started forwarding every bank alert to a folder I titled Evidence with today's date. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady.
Cold. Exact.
Because this wasn't just theft. This was wire fraud. And I was going to build the case that put them both away. I called Linda at 6:47 a.m. before I'd even tried to sleep. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert in that way that told me she'd been expecting something. "I saw your light on past 3, she said. "What happened?" "My father and brother stole $127,000 from my accounts." The words came out flat, clinical. "I need help building a paper trail that will hold up in court." There was a pause. Not shock. Linda had been in wealth management for 30 years and had seen every flavor of family betrayal there was. "Send me everything you have," she said. "And get dressed. I'm calling Marcus." Marcus Chin arrived at Linda's house an hour later with a laptop bag and the kind of tired eyes that suggested he'd seen worse than this before breakfast. He was a forensic accountant who specialized in tracing money through corporate shells and offshore accounts, the kind of person Linda kept on speed dial for when her high-net-worth clients discovered their business partners had been creative with the books. I walked him through the timeline, the devices, the amounts, the wire transfer to Apex Holdings LLC. He listened without interrupting, occasionally typing notes, his expression neutral in a way that somehow made me feel less insane. "The LLC is the key," he said finally. "If they're using a shell company, they're either trying to hide the money or they're feeding it into something bigger. Let me run the registration." He pulled up the North Carolina Secretary of State database and searched Apex Holdings. It existed, registered 3 months ago with a Durham address. He copied the address into Google Maps, and we all leaned forward to look at the screen. The street view showed an empty lot behind a strip mall. Overgrown grass. A rusted chain-link fence. No building. "Fake address," Marcus said. "Registered agent is probably a service that files paperwork for a fee and doesn't ask questions." He clicked through to the LLC's filing documents. The listed member was Valerie Boles. My father. Not even hiding behind a pseudonym. Linda made a sound in her throat that might have been a laugh if it wasn't so bitter. He put his own name on it. "They thought you wouldn't look," Marcus said, still scrolling. "Or that you'd be too hurt to fight back." He opened another window and started running the LLC's EIN through a database I didn't recognize. Here's where it gets interesting. Apex Holdings opened a business account at a crypto exchange 4 days ago. They deposited your wire transfer and immediately converted it to Bitcoin. My stomach dropped. "Crypto?" 83,000 in Bitcoin, Marcus confirmed. "But here's the thing, they haven't moved it. It's sitting in the exchange wallet, which means either they don't know how to transfer it out or something went wrong." He looked up at me with something that might have been sympathy. "Your father just locked your money in a system he doesn't understand." Linda leaned back in her chair. "So they stole $127,000 and trapped themselves." "Exactly," Marcus said. "And now we know where every dollar is." The call came on Wednesday at 2:13 p.m. while I was sitting in Marcus's office reviewing the crypto exchange's terms of service. My phone lit up with Dad and a photo from last Christmas, him grinning in a ridiculous Santa hat I'd bought him. My finger hovered over the decline button. "Answer it," Marcus said quietly. "And put it on speaker. I want to hear this." I swiped to accept, and my father's voice exploded through the phone before I could say hello. "What the hell did you do, Valerie?" Not "I'm sorry." Not "I can explain." Just rage. pure and crackling, like I was the one who'd committed a crime. Dad. Don't dad me. You froze the accounts. You locked us out. Do you have any idea what you've done? His voice was ragged, frantic in a way I'd never heard before. You need to call the exchange right now and unfreeze the withdrawals. Right now, Valerie. I looked at Marcus, who was already typing notes. I didn't freeze anything, I said slowly. The exchange froze your account because you triggered their fraud detection. That's what happens when you wire someone else's money into crypto without proper documentation. It's not fraud, he caught himself, but not fast enough. It was sitting there. You weren't using it. We had access. We just needed $127,000?
My voice was ice.
You needed my entire life savings? My retirement account? The emergency fund I built in case something happened to me? You don't understand. He was breathing hard now, the kind of panicked gasping that came before bad decisions. The platform locked the withdrawals, and we can't get the money out. There are people asking questions, Valerie. Real people who want their payouts. You need to fix this. In the background, I heard Daryl's voice, higher-pitched and sharp with fear. Tell her about the guys. Tell her they called again. My blood went cold. What guys? It doesn't matter, Dad snapped. What matters is you unfreezing the goddamn account, so we can transfer the funds and make this right. Make what right? I asked. What did you do with my money? There was a pause. Then Dad's voice came back lower, meaner. We invested it. In a crypto opportunity. High yield. We were going to pay you back with interest, but now you've screwed everything by reporting it stolen. The platform thinks we're criminals. You are criminals, I said. The words felt good.
Clean.
You committed wire fraud. You used my money without permission. That's a federal crime. We had access. Dad shouted. You gave us access. We just walked through a door you left open, and now you're acting like we broke in. Marcus was writing frantically. Confession.
No remorse.
Blaming victim. I'm not fixing anything, I said. And you're going to tell me everything about these people who want their money. Or I'm calling the FBI right now. The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. Marcus called me at midnight. I'd been staring at my ceiling for 2 hours, replaying Dad's voice. We just walked through a door you left open. Like a song I couldn't get out of my head. I found something, Marcus said. You need to see this now. I drove to his office in pajama pants and a hoodie, my hair still wet from a shower I'd taken just to have something to do with my hands. He was waiting in the lobby, door already unlocked, looking like he'd been awake as long as I had. He led me to his computer where multiple windows were open, filled with text I couldn't quite parse yet. Your brother's laptop, he said. The one he used to access your accounts. He synced it to a cloud backup service and never encrypted it. Everything's here. How did you? Detective Torres got a warrant this afternoon. Daryl's not smart enough to use separate devices for separate crimes. Marcus clicked to a messaging thread, and my father's name appeared at the top. The timestamp read July 14th, 4 months ago. Edgar. V's 401k has early withdrawal option if hardship.
Can we use that?
Daryl. She'd have to authorize it. She'd ask questions. Edgar. What if we already have authorization? My stomach turned. Marcus scrolled down. Daryl. The tax emergency thing worked. She gave me her password manager access to help set up the new system. I've got everything.
Edgar. Good.
Don't touch anything yet. We wait for the right window. She's got that conference in Denver next month. 3 days. That's when we move. I read it twice. I want you to give him exactly what he's already asking for. A meeting where you help him access the accounts. Except you'll be wearing a wire and we'll be close enough to intervene the second he says something we can arrest him for. Torres slid a notepad across the table. You get him to confess on tape. We get enough for conspiracy charges, wire fraud, and anything else that sticks. I stared at the blank notepad. He's my father. He's a thief who planned this for 4 months, Torres said, not unkindly. And based on those messages, he owes money to people who don't accept excuses. If we don't move now, he's either going to run or do something stupid that puts you at risk. Linda's hand found mine on the table. You don't have to do this. But I did. I knew I did. Because the alternative was watching Dad spiral until those guys he mentioned decided I was the collateral. Or worse, watching him convince himself he'd done nothing wrong and trying this again with someone else. What do I say? I asked. Torres pulled out his phone. Text him. Keep it simple. Something like, I talked to the exchange. They'll unlock the account if we both verify in person. Can you meet tomorrow? He paused. He'll jump at it. He's got no other options. I typed the message with shaking hands, watched it sit in the blue bubble for a second, then hit send before I could change my mind. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Dad, where? Me, Rusty Anchor. Noon. Bring Daryl. Dad. Why Daryl? Me, because he's on the account too. Exchange needs both authorized users. There was a longer pause this time. Then, Dad? Okay. Don't screw this up, Valerie. People are counting on this. I showed the screen to Torres. He nodded once, already pulling out paperwork. We'll wire you up at 11:30. Plainclothes officers inside and outside. You sit near the windows. Get him talking. The second he admits to taking the money or threatens you, we move. What if he doesn't confess? I asked. Torres looked at me with something that might have been respect. He will. Desperate people always tell the truth when they think it'll save them. He stood, gathering his files. Your father thinks you're going to rescue him. That's the last mistake he'll make. The recording device was smaller than I expected. Detective Torres taped it just below my collarbone, the microphone no bigger than a shirt button, the wire running down my side, and clipping to a transmitter at my lower back. I wore a loose blouse to hide the bulk, but I could feel it with every breath, a constant reminder that I was about to betray my father by letting him betray himself. Don't touch it, Torres said, adjusting the microphone one last time. Don't fidget with your shirt. Just sit naturally and let him talk. We need him to say he took the money. We need him to explain why. If he threatens you, even subtly, say the word exactly, and we come in immediately. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We were parked 2 blocks from the Rusty Anchor, a chain restaurant with too loud music and sticky tables that I'd chosen specifically because it was public, crowded, and had nowhere to hide. Through the windshield, I could see the lunch rush building, families, business people, college students. Normal people doing normal things while I prepared to record my father confessing to a felony. Linda appeared at my window, tapping gently. Torres stepped out to give us space. She opened my door and crouched down so we were eye level. You don't have to do this, she said for the 3rd time that morning. We have the messages. We have the transaction records. That might be enough. It's not about enough, I said. It's about him understanding what he did. He still thinks I left a door open. He still thinks this is my fault. Linda's expression softened. And you need him to say it out loud. I need him to stop lying, I whispered. To me. To himself. I need to hear him admit he planned this. That he knew exactly what he was taking. She squeezed my hand once, hard, then stood. I'll be 3 tables northwest. You'll be able to see me if you need to. She walked toward the restaurant, her gray pantsuit blending perfectly with the lunch crowd. Torres came back, handed me my phone and my purse, both checked for any interference with the wire. Officers Ramirez and Chen are already inside, southeast corner booth. I'll be in the car with Officer Park. We can hear everything. You're not alone in there. I looked at the restaurant entrance. My father's truck was already in the parking lot. Early. Of course he was early. Desperate men are always early. What if I freeze? I asked. You won't, Torres said. You've spent 2 days investigating your own case like a professional. You've documented everything. You've traced the money. You've read his messages planning this. He leaned down to meet my eyes. You're not the victim walking into that restaurant. You're the prosecutor. Act like it. I got out of the car, straightened my blouse one last time, and walked toward the door. The wire pressed against my ribs with every step. 3 tables away, Linda was already seated, menu open, eyes tracking my movement. I took a breath, pushed through the entrance, and saw my father and brother waiting at a corner booth, their faces drawn and hollow with the kind of fear that only debt creates. They didn't even let me sit down before Dad started talking. "Did you bring your laptop?" he asked, his voice sharp and urgent. "The exchange sent me an email. There's a recovery portal, but it needs the original account holder to verify." "That's you." I slid into the booth slowly, setting my purse down with deliberate care. "Hello to you too, Dad." Daryl wouldn't meet my eyes. He looked thinner than I remembered, his fingers drumming against the table in a manic rhythm that made the silverware rattle. "Val, we don't have time for small talk. The guys called again this morning. They want confirmation the money's moving by tonight or there." He stopped himself, glancing at Dad. "Or they're what?" I asked. "It doesn't matter," Dad cut in. "What matters is fixing this. You said you talked to the exchange. You said they'd unlock it if we verified. So, let's verify." A waitress appeared, too cheerful for the moment, asking about drinks. Dad waved her away, without looking at her. I ordered water just to watch him flinch at the delay. The waitress left, confused, and Dad leaned forward across the table. "Valerie,
Please.
I know you're upset, but we can fix this if you just help us access the account right now." "Help you access my money?" I said. "The money you stole?" "We didn't steal it." Dad's jaw tightened. "We had access. You gave us access. We just took what we needed." There it was. The confession I'd been waiting for, delivered with the indignation of a man who truly believed he'd done nothing wrong. I felt the wire press against my ribs, recording every word. "You took $127,000, I said slowly. "Without asking. Without telling me. While I was at a conference in Denver." "You would have said no," Dad shot back. "You always say no." "That's too risky, Dad." "That's not a good investment, Dad." "You don't understand opportunities when you see them. This was a sure thing, and we just needed." "Seed money," Daryl interrupted, his voice cracking. "We needed seed money for the crypto play. It was supposed to triple in 2 weeks. We were going to put everything back, plus interest. You wouldn't have even known." I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw a stranger wearing my brother's face. "But it didn't triple, did it?" "The Discord group was fake," Daryl whispered. "The whole thing was a scam. We put your money in, and it just locked. The platform flagged it as suspicious. And now the guys who fronted us the buy-in money think we're trying to cut them out." Dad slammed his palm on the table hard enough to make nearby diners turn. "Which is why you need to unlock it right now. Stop punishing us and fix this, Valerie. We're family. You don't send family to—" He stopped, eyes widening like he'd just realized what he was about to say. "To prison." I finished for him. "Is that what you think I'm doing?" "I think you're being vindictive," Dad hissed. "We made a mistake. We're sorry. Now help us before this gets worse for everyone." The word hung in the air like a threat. I looked past him toward Linda's table and said one word. "Exactly." Dad lunged across the table, hand outstretched toward my purse. "Give me your phone. I'll show you the recovery portal. You just have to log in with your credentials and authorize the—" "Step back from the table, Mr. Boles." Detective Torres's voice cut through the restaurant noise like a blade. Dad froze mid-reach, his fingers inches from my bag. Torres stood at the end of our booth in plain clothes, jeans, polo shirt, looking like any other lunch customer except for the badge now clipped to his belt and the 2 uniformed officers flanking him. Daryl saw them first. His chair scraped back so fast it toppled over, and he bolted toward the kitchen entrance. He made it maybe 5 steps before Officer Ramirez caught him, spinning him into the wall near the restrooms with practiced efficiency. Daryl's cheek pressed against a poster advertising 2-for-1 appetizers as Ramirez cuffed him. "Don't move. Don't speak." The restaurant had gone silent. Phones were out recording.
A toddler started crying.
I sat perfectly still, my hands folded on the table, watching my father's face cycle through confusion, recognition, and finally comprehension as his eyes found the wire peeking out from under my collar. "You," his voice broke. "You wore a wire?" Torres pulled out his own cuffs. "Edgar Boles, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and theft by unauthorized access. You have the right to remain silent." "Valerie, what did you do?" Dad's voice pitched higher, almost a wail. "What did you do?" "I documented a confession," I said. My voice didn't shake.
"Just like you taught me."
"You said, always keep records. Always have proof. I'm your father." The words came out strangled as Torres pulled his arms behind his back, the cuffs clicking shut. "You're putting your own father in jail? Over money? Over $127,000 you stole?" I said. "Over 4 months of planning to rob me. Over messages where you called me stupid for trusting you." I stood up, my legs steady. "Over you teaching Daryl that family means access to exploit." Torres started guiding Dad toward the entrance. Dad twisted against the grip, still staring at me like I was someone he'd never seen before. "We're family, Val. You don't do this to family. You don't." "Family doesn't steal," I said. "Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use trust as a weapon." Officer Chun had Daryl by the opposite exit, my brother's face buried in his shoulder, sobbing. Dad kept screaming as Torres walked him past the bar, past the hostess stand, past a dozen phones recording every second. "This is wrong. Valerie, you're making a mistake. We were going to pay you back. We just needed." The door swung shut behind them, cutting off his voice. The restaurant stayed frozen for another beat, then the noise rushed back all at once. Whispers, shocked laughter, the scrape of chairs as people leaned in to gossip. Linda appeared at my elbow, steady and solid. "Let's get you out of here." I let her guide me toward the back exit, away from the cameras, away from the manager already on his phone, away from the booth where my father had confessed to destroying me and called it love. The sentencing documents arrived on a Tuesday in April, 6 months after I'd watched my father get arrested in a chain restaurant while strangers filmed it for TikTok. I read them alone in my office with the door closed and the blinds drawn, the way you read test results you're not sure you want to know. Edgar Boles, 8 years federal prison, eligible for parole after 5. Restitution ordered in the amount of $127,000 to be paid from seized assets and future earnings. Daryl Boles, 5 years, eligible for parole after 3. Same restitution order, joint and several liability. I set the papers down and waited to feel something. Relief. Vindication.
Grief.
But there was only a hollow, neutral calm, like the moment after you finish crying and your body doesn't remember what comes next. The asset seizure had recovered $91,000 so far. Dad's truck, sold at auction. Daryl's car, the one I'd co-signed for, ironically. The contents of their bank accounts, which amounted to $3,400 combined. The rest was gone, vaporized into whatever crypto scam they'd fallen for, likely stolen by the same people who'd convinced my father he was smart enough to beat the system. I'd changed everything. New bank. New passwords. All of them randomly generated 20-character strings I kept in an encrypted manager that required both fingerprint and facial recognition to access. New security questions with fake answers no one in my family could guess even if they tried. I'd removed every authorized user, every linked device, every shared access point. My accounts were a fortress now, empty, locked, and utterly alone. Linda knocked softly and entered without waiting for permission, the way she'd been doing since November. She set a coffee on my desk, the good kind from the place 3 blocks over, and sat across from me. "You read them." 8 years, I said. "He'll be 71 when he gets out. If he gets out." "He earned every day of it." Linda's voice was matter-of-fact. "You know that." I did know that. I'd sat through the trial. I'd listened to the prosecutor play the recording of Dad saying, "You gave us access. We just took what we needed," while the jury took notes. I'd watched him take the stand and try to explain that he'd meant to pay me back, that it wasn't really theft if he had permission to touch the accounts, that I was being cruel by pressing charges over a family misunderstanding. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. "The hardest part isn't that he stole from me," I said quietly. "It's that he still doesn't think he did anything wrong. Even after everything, he thinks I'm the one who broke us." Linda was silent for a moment. Then, "He taught you about compound interest when you were 12.
Yeah.
And now you've taught him about consequences." She stood, squeezed my shoulder once. "That's its own kind of compound interest. It just takes longer to mature." After she left, I pulled up my account balances. Slowly rebuilding. New emergency fund, $8,200. New savings, $12,400. The numbers were smaller now, but they were mine. Completely, exclusively, irrevocably mine. I closed the laptop and looked at the empty picture frame on my desk where a photo of Dad and Daryl used to sit. I'd removed it the day after the arrest and never replaced it. Some people leave ghosts. Some people leave lessons.
My father taught me about trust.
Then he taught me why boundaries matter more. I was finally done learning. It took me 6 months to read those sentencing documents without shaking. If you made it this far with me, thank you. Subscribe and comment what you would have done differently, or if you've ever had to choose between family and justice. This community gets it.